Check out Paddy's Rewards Club. Simply place 5 bets of £10 or more across any sport in a week, and you'll get a free £10 bet then next week. T&Cs apply. 18+. BeGambleAware.org.
Hello and welcome to this Monday Postcast. I'm Maddie Plough and I'm joined by Nick Watts in the studio. We've also got Tom Siegel and of course Paul Binfield from Paddy Power on the line as well. Coming up, we're going to look back on a thrilling weekend of racing and of course assess the Grand National picture with the weights released last week. We're going to have a look at Saturday's big races at Kempton and Newcastle, and as usual there's your chance to win the free bet from Paddy Power. So we're going to dive in there and crack on with reviewing what was a brilliant weekend. First off, we've got to start off with the Betfair Ascot Chase, which was dubbed as the race of the season, and in many ways it delivered. I'll get to you first. What did you make of it? And waiting patiently in the Ryanair, how would you look at him?
Well, first off, you're right, it was a fantastic race. The only one who didn't turn up was Top Notch, which was surprising because he normally runs his race, but didn't on this occasion. But the other three, waiting patiently, Q-Card obviously ran a stormer, Frodden ran well for a long way as well. Interesting thing, I didn't go to Ascot myself on Saturday, but I had a couple of friends there, regular race watchers, etc., and they said waiting patiently pulled up very quickly after the line as if he was very, very tired. So I think he put a lot into that effort to subdue Q-Card. For that reason, I don't think he'll go to the Ryanair. Ruth Jefferson has said she's not particularly interested in Cheltenham, and I think the horse might need a bit of time to recover from it, which is perfectly understandable because he put a lot into it. So if we see him anywhere this season, I'd expect it to be Aintree, and then obviously on to next season. But I don't think he's a player for the Ryanair purely because I don't think he's going to run.
Okay, nice and simple. That's interesting you say that he could have been tired because a lot of people thought he came there swinging, was idling and did it relatively easily in the end. So that's an interesting spin on it. Binners, what price are you now waiting patiently for the Ryanair and the rest of them as well?
Well, we'll 100 to 30 from 6 waiting patiently. Maddie, non-runner, no bet, just in case he doesn't turn up. By the way, first time I've spoken to you since you starred on Luck on Sunday, so I thought I'd throw that in. Anyway, we have Earned a So at 5 to 2, waiting patiently at 100 to 30, 7 to 2 Duvan, 4 Min, 9 to 2 Fox Norton, and York Hill on 7.
Thank you very much, Binners. Thanks for that. Tom, I bet you're dying to talk about this Ascot Chase. Have you got a strong opinion on it at all?
What, you were on Luck on Sunday, Maddie? Never.
Oh, hey, come on, I'm not one to boast.
What did I think? I normally agree with everything Watsy says, and I'm glad to see he qualified it by the fact that he wasn't there. I couldn't disagree more. I thought waiting patiently pulled himself up in front. I thought he was dossing. He swung across the course. He had his ears pricked. I don't think he was tired at all. I think 3 miles next year in the King George will be his race. I fancy him to win that next year. I think he's really top class. What I would say is, though, there is a doubt about him at Cheltenham in the Ryanair. I'm not worried about ground or anything. I'm worried about his jumping. I think the Ascot fences, I don't know what's happened to them, but you just walk through the Ascot fences these days. He made a few mistakes. If you look at the picture of him jumping the last, he just sort of walks through the last. I'm not totally convinced that Cheltenham would be his cup of tea up and down the hill on better ground. So that's why I'm against him in the Ryanair. Do I think he's a brilliant horse? I do. And I loved Q-Card. I really did. I don't think I've seen a horse go so hard as he did and keep running to the line. I thought that was as good a performance as he's put in for a couple of years, let alone this year.
I said it could have been a career best, potentially.
Yeah, excellent. I thought he was really, really good. I see they're going to run in the Gold Cup. I think he's got a better chance of winning the Ryanair, if I'm honest, than the Gold Cup, because I'm still not convinced he's a slogger. I think he's got a lot of pace, still clearly got a lot of pace. But I have no qualms about him running there, and I think he's a player. I really do. I think if you're looking through the chase form this year, guys, you can pick holes in all the chase form this year. This is the first race we've had where 2 horses have pulled clear of really good horses. You can't say that in the King George. You can obviously say it about the Betfair Chase, but that's Haydock in the mud. That's irrelevant. The rest is a bit of a muchness. The Hennessy form, the Ladbrokes Trophy form, I should say, is not working out that well. The races in Ireland is all a bit of muchness. I thought the 2 races this week, the one in Gowran and this one, 2 horses ran clear of horses that have been running well in good company all season. And I think they might be just about the best form we've had this season. So I thought it was, like you said, thought it was the race of the season, and I thought the 2 of them were outstanding.
Okay, we'll get on to our Duke in a second. Binners, just refresh us with your Gold Cup prices and include Q-Card if you can, please.
Yeah, no problem, Maddie. Yeah, we have 7 to 2 Might Bite, our biggest loser at the festival currently. 6-1 Sizing John and Native River, 9-1 Road to Respect Our Duke and Kilyatar Vic. And then if we look further down the market, you can have 20-1 about Q Card.
Okay, Watsy, before we move on to our Duke, Q Card, that was a fantastic run, wasn't it? I'm not sure many people were expecting it, but hopefully those people calling for retirement will have been silenced a bit now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, beforehand, I wasn't quite sure what to expect. You know, being a 12-year-old, etc., against young up-and-coming horses. But as Tom said, he, you know, him and Froden went quite hard from the front, and Froden was well beaten off. He ended up out the back with Top Notch, and Q-Card just kept on so gamely. I'm always a bit ageist. I shouldn't be when it comes to horses, and it's just a natural assumption that when you reach 12 that they're on the downgrade, but it's not necessarily the case, and I don't think it's the case with Q-Card. I wouldn't be sure about him going for the Gold Cup. He's probably missed his best chance of that, but one final Grade 1, you wouldn't rule it out. Maybe at Aintree in the bowl in a smaller field. You know, he was mustered in that a few seasons ago when he won. So I mean, that might be his best chance of one more Grade 1. Yeah,
it was interesting that they took all of his usual bits off, and they took all the headgear off and said we're just going to let him run, you know, in a snaffle bit, nothing, you know, harsh on his mouth or anything, and just see how we go. Tom, before we move on, Coney Island, he was pulled up, obviously very disappointing. What would you do with him now? Do you think anything injured or just baffling?
Well, there's fewer horses run like that. You know, we had a couple. Did we have one for the JP team and not long ago? I can't remember. Not thinking straight here, but I don't know what I'd do with him. I mean, it was too bad to be true. He obviously didn't have a hard race. He just didn't seem to jump, and he didn't seem to jump the last time he was at Ascot. But we know he can jump because he was good last year in his novice chases. I think you can just put a line through it. It's my new saying, that is. I'm going to put a line through it and see what happens and give him another chance next time. I think he's one of the horses that could easily bounce back at a big price now, because I just think it was a nothing run.
Yeah, you can't be taking that on face value. Moving on now to our Duke, who won at Gore, and of course now I think he's about 9-1 for the Gold Cup, as Binner's mentioned. He gave Presenting Percy £7 and a beating in the end, not jumping all that well at some stages, and probably over a trip too short for him. Is he a proper Gold Cup candidate now?
Yeah, I think so, because he's starting to look more like the horse he was at the back end of last season when he won the Irish National and those kind of races. Obviously, things weren't right first time out, but Jessica Harrington's worked on him at home, corrected that. It was a step in the right direction last time out in the Leopardstown race, and he's taken it on a notch here. So, yeah, I do think he's a player in the Gold Cup. I wonder how much, you know, Robbie Power's ridden him for the last 10 times. I think he's got quite a good understanding with him, and he's you know, like you said, he can be a bit hit and miss with the jumping sometimes. He's, I think by all accounts, going to ride Sizing John. I wonder if there was any other decision to be made for him as to if it was a difficult choice between the two of them. I suppose he's got to go with the reigning champ, but maybe just the loss of Power and a new jockey on board might just dissuade me, or, you know, just kind of puts me against him slightly. But definitely a step in the right direction, and, you know, he's, like I said, he's looking more like the horse he was at the end of last season.
Noel Feely going to take the ride now, of course, which is quite interesting. Tom, I wasn't expecting our Duke to necessarily win, because everyone seems to absolutely adore this Presenting Percy, who by all means ran a great race, but I thought it was a big ask, but he won nicely in the end. I was a bit surprised. What did you think?
Yeah, when I first watched the race, Maddie, I was really disappointing with Presenting Percy, because if you're a good horse and you jump as well as he does, and you should be able to, if people are thinking he's a Gold Cup horse, he should be able to beat, you know, horses of a similar standard getting £7. He couldn't do it. But the more I watched the race, the more I'm of the opinion that maybe the ground was against him. It was very heavy ground at Gowan. And also, he was taking on a really, really good horse. I'm a massive Duke fan. I'm not too worried about the jockey situation. I think his two best performances last year came when he beat Coney Island in the Grade 1 at Leopardstown over Christmas. That was on yielding ground. And then when he went to the Irish National, when he beat Bless the Wings by 15 lengths off a big weight, and that was on good ground too. I think his jumping is much better off good ground. He didn't touch a twig hardly when he won the Irish National, and he jumped pretty well when he beat Coney Island too. So I'm personally not that worried about his jumping. I think the ground is the key to him. I think the better the ground, the better he'll be. And if he's anywhere near the front with 2 to jump, I think he'll win the Gold Cup. I really do. I don't think there's a stronger stayer in the race, and I think he's better than Native River. Simple as that.
Okay, and Presenting Percy, you'd still fancy him for the RSA?
Well, he had a hard race, didn't he? It was bad ground, and he looked to finish a bit tired.
I was a bit surprised they ran him in the first place, weren't you?
Right, that's what yeah, exactly. I wouldn't have done that, but look, they know the horse a lot better than we do, and they have their reasons. But for me, I wouldn't have run him. I would have just taken him straight to the RSA. I think he'll be a different horse on better ground. He was last year. Whether that's the perfect profile, I'm not sure. I think what it will do is it'll probably mean Monolly will run in that race now. I think they'll think that I think they were thinking of going to the JLT because they were scared of presenting Percy. I think they'll put it back in that race now. I think that's where it'll run now. A couple of weeks ago, I didn't. And I think it's turning out to be a really good race. I think they'll both get beaten because I don't think Monolly is a certain stayer at the trip. And I think I'm not sure that's the ideal profile for him in the RSA. So it's a race I'm now interested in when I wasn't interested in a couple of weeks ago. So I quite like the fact he got beat in a way because I think it makes the RSA a better betting race.
Yeah, okay. We'll move on to Black Courton now. But Binners, before we do, what do you bet for the RSA, including presenting Percy and Monolly and the rest of them?
Yeah, Monolly 11-4 favourite, Maddie. Presenting Percy 3-1 now. We did push him out to 130 immediately after he got beaten by our Duke, but punters have decided that was too big. 6-1 Yanworth, 8-1 Courton, invitation only. Alboom Photo 10 bar.
Okay, now I'm a big fan of Miss Parfois Watsy, and Black Courton well and truly put her in her place in the Reynolds-Town at Ascot on Saturday. A lot of people saying this was, his most impressive win yet. Paul Nicholls had stated there was a lot to work on. What do you think of him? Because he's one of those horses that people always want to take on and sort of criticise, but he keeps on winning, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah, I think you've got to forget where the horse came from and forget that at one point in time he was seen as a summer jumper and, early season novice kind of thing. You've got to reappraise if that's your point of view, because he's rated 155 before Saturday's race. That would have been good enough to win a lot of the recent renewals of the RSA Chase. He's just won a Grade 2 Chase 2 starts ago. He just won a Grade 1 at Christmas, and then he just won a Grade 2. I was of your opinion when I went to Cheltenham in November to see him running the novice chase there, and I was quite keen to take him on, but he won, and he's since won, all his races since then. He gets on fantastically well with Briony Frost. They seem to have a real telepathic understanding. He's a brilliant jumper. He acts around Cheltenham. He stays very strongly, and he has got a bit of a turn of foot because Miss Parfois looked quite dangerous turning into the home straight at Ascot. He sprinted away from her, massive jump at the last, won like a fresh horse, and like you said, Paul Nicholls has got left plenty to work on because I think it wasn't quite right after Christmas and had a bit of time off, so would have left plenty in the tank for the big day. And he kind of reminds me a little bit, this is probably before you were born, this horse, Maddie. Tom will remember this one. Do you remember Young Hustler a few years ago, Tom? He ran about 15 times in his novice season, ran probably more than Black Courton has, and he went and won the RSA at Cheltenham. I think it's a very lazy and dangerous assumption to make that just because Black Courton was once a summer jumper, it doesn't mean that he can't win the RSA. He's only had one race since Christmas, so he should be relatively fresh. And like I said, he just ticks every single box. So I think he's a massive player. And I think if Briony Frost, hopefully, fingers crossed, stays injury-free and takes the ride, that's just an even bigger plus. Yeah, we've got to mention her again, of course. Briony Frost, a name that seems to be in all the headlines at the moment. I think she gave him a brilliant ride. She utilised his speed. Like she said, he's not slow. He was once a 2-mile hurdler and not a bad one at that. Tom, Black Courton, would you be looking at him for the RSA?
No, I wouldn't. I like him. I think he is what he is. He's, as Nick pointed out, exactly spot on. He's a fantastic ambassador, and he is proving every time he runs. But 8-1's 8-1. That's what he is. I think there's better value bets in the race than him. I tell you who I like. I like Alan King's mare Mia's Storm. If she bounces back to the form that we saw at the start of the season, you throw out the run on soft ground when she fell in the Felton when she was favourite. I think if the ground is good, she's virtually unbeaten on good ground. I think if the ground came up good at Cheltenham, getting the £7, I think she is the best of the British, and I think she has a good chance of finishing in the frame. So she'd be my one at this stage. Okay. But Black Courton, it's a meh for me. Not sure. Yeah, okay. Very interesting. Dark horse there. Sorry? 8-1's 8-1, isn't it? She's okay. He's okay at 8-1, isn't he? I mean, I think he might finish in the frame. Do I think he's a real top-notcher? I still have my doubts. Okay. Ben, is anything to add on Black Courton?
Not really, Maddie. I did a great performance. I still think the Irish are better, and I don't think Presenting Percy was bad in defeat at the weekend. I know he received £7, but I agree with Tom. I think our Duke's a really, really good horse, and against novices, Presenting Percy could be a bit too good. As for Tom's selection in this race, this Mears Storm, you can have double figures 16-1 on that.
Okay, nicely done, Tom. We'll move on now to Elgin, who of course won the Kingwell Hurdle at Wincanton, and Weather Connection should stump up the money to supplement him for the Champion Hurdle. I actually think they should. I just think, why not? I think he did it quite well at Wincanton, although Greatwood Hurdle winners haven't done that well in the Champion Hurdle recently. If you owned Elgin, would you be, tapping on Alan King's shoulder saying, let's go for this?
Yeah, chuck him in there. Why on earth not? You just won a trial for the race.
Where else are you going to go?
Where else are you going to go? The Champion Hurdle often cuts up, especially when you've got a favourite like Bouverdare. People thinking he's home and hosed and maybe not wanting to take him on. So it never attracts big fields, the Champion Hurdle. There's great prize money for it, so throw him in there, give it a shot. Absolutely, send him there. Done.
Tom, anything to add?
No, spot on. He gave Chutibello weight and a thrashing at Wincanton. Why wouldn't you run him? That's exactly what other horses, that puts him right there with My Tentor Yours and, the new one, those type of horses, and they've finished placed in the past. Why not run him?
And he's got that all-important Cheltenham form as well. We're all in agreement on that one, which is a rare but very nice thing. On to our weekend eye catchers now. Tom, any horses that you want to chuck in the notebook?
Good question. I thought Willie Mullins' Juvenile Sadlier was quite interesting when he won by miles, wherever it was. I thought he's quite interesting. I noticed there was a bit of money around for him for the Triumph. I'm not sure he's Triumph bound. I don't know. He might be, but I thought he was quite interesting. And no, not really. Not really. Apart from that, the obvious ones at Ascot were, I thought the horse in the first race of Nicky Henderson's that got beaten was quite an interesting mare. I think she'll
Dame de Company.
Dame de Company, I thought she was quite interesting, but I think the obvious races were the obvious ones, and I think they were the races to concentrate on, the good chases.
Okay, Binners, any eye catchers for you?
Yeah, I really like Donna's Diamond, who won the Rendlesham at Haydock so gamely, Maddie. He's a standing dish at Haydock, and he loves a bit of heavy ground. And I see that they're thinking of going up to Ayr, and I think if he turns up there in good form, he might take a bit of beating.
Okay, and what's he?
Yeah, one that got beaten in the Reynoldstown, Mount Muse. He was ultimately quite well held, but I thought he travelled really well for a long way. He had good hurdle form last season. I know Malcolm Jefferson thought the world of him. He might not be a badly handicapped horse now. I don't know what mark he's off exactly, but I'd look out for him at one of the spring festivals, maybe over a shorter trip.
He's a strong traveller, that's for sure. And as you say, he's always had the reputation. Right, it's competition time now. For your chance to win a £25 or €25 free bet from Paddy Power, simply tweet the answer to the following question using the hashtag Postcast. The winner will be announced on Friday's show, and your free bet will be credited to your Paddy Power account. This week's question is, who is favourite for the 2018 Randox Health Grand National with Paddy Power? We'll be talking about that just after this break.
Success ain't earned, it's bought. That's why at Paddy Power, we paid the big bucks for the best tech nerds in the world to develop our new, fastest ever app. Download the new app from the App Store or Play Store now. 18+, begambleaware.org.
Okay, welcome back to this Monday Postcast. We're going to talk about the Grand National now, of course. A few horses have come out and run this weekend who were entered, of course. Black Lion firstly finished a very tied second in the Grand National trial at Haydock. A lot of noise about him possibly going for the Gold Cup, but that's now not the case. He's going to go straight to Aintree. What did you make of that as a prep? I mean, they've used it last year to go on and win at Aintree, but he was very tired, wasn't he?
Yeah, I love the horse. I love Black Lion. I talk about him a lot in these programmes. If they'd gone down a different route, yeah, I'd see him as a good Gold Cup outsider. But I'm just not sure about the wisdom of having run him on that ground. I was watching that race. It didn't make for particularly edifying viewing as a spectacle. And to my mind, I didn't quite appreciate how deep the ground was at Haydock at the weekend. When I saw Black Lion jumping, who's normally very fluent, you saw him over the Grand National fences in December, not touching a twig and jumping fantastically well. He was struggling to get up and over them. He was really struggling to get out of that ground, so it must have been very, very deep. He had nothing left at the finish at all. If that was good soft ground, I would have expected him to win that race and win it comfortably. But heavy ground at Haydock is a huge leveller. Horses win by long distances. We saw it at Bristol de May. He can handle it, others can't. I'm just not sure about the wisdom of having run him in that race. And it's billed as a Grand National trial, but it hasn't produced a Grand National trial, I don't think ever, certainly for a very long time. Did he enhance his prospects? I think it might take a bit of getting over that run. And yeah, like I said, I love the horse, but he didn't enhance his prospects at the weekend. And funnily enough, just a quick one as well, Regal Encore won at Ascot.
He's on the list.
he was on my short list for Aintree when the weights came out, because he ran quite an eye-catching race. He finished 8th last season. He was given a bit of a negative ride by Robbie Power. Maybe they wondered how he would take to it. And so I thought he might be interesting. Weirdly, the way the horse seems to work is that one good run is followed by a dreadful run. So the fact that he's just won at Ascot on Saturday
is actually a negative.
It's kind of reverse psychology, but doesn't make me want to be with him at Aintree, because he'll probably throw in a stinker. I'd almost preferred it if he'd got beaten outside on Saturday, and then I would have been more interested in him. He is that type of horse. He is Marmite, one good, one bad. But yeah, you can't deny he won nicely on Saturday.
Okay, if Black Line was mine, I'd much prefer to see him in a Gold Cup than a Grand National, but he's not, unfortunately. Tom, what did you make of his run at Haydock, and do you agree with Watsy on the whole national preparation?
I thought Watsy was spot on about the run. Obviously, the ground was ridiculously bad there. It was the weirdest race you've ever seen in your life up at Haydock. Look, it's the 6th of a year. It's 2 months till the Grand National. In terms of physically being over the run, I don't think there's any problem with that. It's the mental aspect that we won't know. Nigel Twist, no one will know how much that sort of set him back mentally, because he obviously was absolutely exhausted.
He is a very tough horse in nature, isn't he, as well?
Exactly. He's come back from hard races in the past. He's won good races on heavy ground before in the past, and finished well beaten in the past. So I'm not too worried about him. I think he'll be it's 2 months till the Grand National. Let's not forget, it's not like it's Cheltenham. There's a month on after Cheltenham. I thought it was funny during the week when, Willie Mullins changed his plans and decided to go for the Gold Cup at rather than the Gold Cup prior to the National with Total Recall, and everyone was like, "Wow, how negative's that?" And I'm sort of sitting there saying, "Well, it is a month. There's loads of horses have run at Cheltenham, and they do it every year.
Quite a good trial, the Gold Cup for the National, isn't it?
And the Ultima has always been a good trial for the Grand National, So I don't really see it being a negative for him. And if we're saying that's a negative, then it's the mental aspect of finishing like he did that no one can work out. But that's feely touchy stuff that no one knows. He's become, if he's there at 16-1 on the morning of the race, I tell you, everyone will be worried about Black Line. Everyone will be worried. We can make all these excuses about whether he's come back and whether he's not, but he'll be a player. And we'll all be thinking, should we have backed Black Line at 16-1 in the morning? So I'm not overly negative, no.
Okay. Regal Encore, did he catch your eye or anything else lurking in the weights?
No, I like Regal Encore. He did the third in the Hennessy. He's won lots of big races, hasn't he, Regal Encore? Second in a bumper. He's got a lot of talent. It's just, as Watsy said, what side out of the bed he's got on in the morning. I mean, I don't know how he's going to run, but he's a very, very jumper is what he is. I mean, I thought he was brilliant on Saturday. I think Richie McClernand actually suits him better than Barry Geraghty. Richie rode him when he was third in the Ladbrokes Trophy. I keep calling it the Hennessy. I'm going to get sacked from any gig I might ever get with Ladbrokes ever again. I thought I think he's, if you took, he's much better off at the weights with Total Recall. As Watsy pointed out, he stayed on really strongly after getting a bit far back at last year. And if he's on a going date, there is absolutely no reason why he can't finish in the frame. He's got a lot of class. He's got a lot of back form, and, he's very good on his day.
Okay, Binners, what's your national horse at this stage, and can we have a roll call of the betting, please?
Well, my national horse at this stage, Maddie, is Bell's Hill, especially at a big price, as Paddy is 6 places each way. He brings a bit of Grade 1 form to the table. He's been second twice at Aintree in good races, the Big Bumper and the Sefton Novices Hurdle. And he's got a fighting weight of 10 stone 7. Considering he was third to Mike Bite in the RSA Chase, I think he could be competitive. And looking at our betting, the competition players, hopefully they'll totally recall that Total Recall is 10-1 favourite. 12 to 1 Black Lion, 14 Minella Rocco, 16 The Last Samurai and Definitely Red, and it's 20 to 1 Bar.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks very much. We're going to talk about Kempton and Newcastle, but first we'll take this short break.
Follow Paddy Power on Snapchat. The username is @ThePaddyPower, and we promise there won't be any boring snaps about gigs, the weather, or the gym.
Welcome back to this Monday Postcast. What's the two big handicaps coming up on Saturday? First off, the Betdack Chase at Kempton. Acting last, Harry Fry's horse is in there. Of course, he won the race with opening batsman in 2013. Lots of other nice names as well. Gold Present, Go Conquer, Tinton Theatre. What was your thoughts on the race at this stage?
I haven't had a huge look at it, to be honest. I had a quick look at what might be top weight. I think Gold Present is top rated at the moment in the field off 155. A double figure odds. So, I thought it was interesting. Joss's Hill was in there in a handicap. I think it's the first time he would have run in a handicap for many a season, if he ever has, because he's always normally taken on Grade 1, Grade 2 opposition. Got a very good record around Kempton. He loves it around there. He ran in a King George a couple of seasons ago. I think he's only beaten 6 or 7 lengths by your favourite horse of all time, Thistlecrack. So it wasn't disgraced. And this will probably just be a bit easier for him. He's a 10-year-old now. He probably wants a few easier races now. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him put up a bold show if he runs in the race. And Gold Present might well take his chance because he missed out last weekend, and Hendo might want to get a national prep race into him. So he might possibly take his chance too. So keeps the weights down a bit for Joss's Hill. Okay,
Binners, can we have some prices on this race, please?
Yep, 4 to 1 favourite Gold Present. 5 to 1 Acting Lass, 7 Tinton Theatre, 8 Master D, 9 Go Conquer My Fancy, and it's 10 Bar.
I'm a big fan of Tinton Theatre in this race, but I also like Go Conquer a lot as well. Tom, who's your number one at this stage? Have you had a good look at the race?
Oh, my number one. Well, I'm a bit against Acting Lass, to be honest. I think he. I keep calling her a she. I mean, you can call it Acting Lass.
Deceptive name.
You can't help it. You can't help but calling it a she. I can't. I thought it was a nothing race at Ascot last time. I know he's only gone up £6. I think the handicapper noticed that too, but I thought it was a sort of just fell apart, didn't it? Halfway round, and so I'd be slightly against him at a different track on a different day. I thought right down the bottom, if she got in, Theatre Territory was quite interesting. Warren Greatorex at a big price. She was not beaten far by your favourite horse, Miss Parfois, 3 starts ago.
There's a lot of mentions of my favourite horses on this
podcast.
Second favourite. They're all different ones. Yeah. Sorry, carry on.
Last time I thought she ran really well. It was all soft ground form. I think she might be a bit better on good ground. She was second to Mr. Whittaker in that time form novice handicap chase at Cheltenham. They were miles clear of everything else, and she jumped really well that day. I don't know. I thought up to 3 miles, 10 stone 3 on her back. It's the type of race that can be funny results. I thought she might go well, but it's early days, and whether she runs, I have no idea.
What price have you got on her, Binners?
Theatre Territory, 14 to 1, Maddie.
14 to 1, there you go, Tom. Moving on now, because we're running out of time at the Betfred Ida Chase at Newcastle. Of course, we mentioned the Grand National previously. Maybe a horse from this could go on to go pretty well in the Grand National. Binners, how do you bet?
We go 5 to 1 Vinnie Lewis, 7 to 1 West of the Edge, 8 Dak Klondike and Hainan, 9 Bay Wing, and it's 10 Milan's Bar Houblon des Oboes.
Okay, well, we've got Emperor's Choice in here, of course, won the 2014 Welsh National, and Milborough won this race back in 2015 as well, so quite a few old favourites in here. Watsy, anything catch your eye at this stage?
Yeah, I must be going a bit soft, I think, Maddie. I used to love this race, the Ida, 4 miles one, an old-fashioned staying chase. But, I remember watching Compañero win a few years ago for Howard Johnson. I think he was about the only horse left in it, and he was just paddling over the last few. And I've kind of gone off it a little bit. But if I had to pick one, I was at Newbury last time when the Klondike won of David Pipes, and he needed all the 3 miles too then to get on top, and he was under pressure for a long time, and I think he's a thorough stayer who probably will be suited. Is that when he beat
Grand Vision?
Grand Vision, yeah. I think it was the Mandarin chase he won over 3-2, and he looked an out-and-out stayer then, and I think he'd be suited by the step-up in trip. Pipey's obviously won it before, he used it for Comply or Die. This is just a young horse, I think he's 6-7 years old, so no Grand Nationals for him yet, but I think he could be the one to beat here.
Okay, De Klondike for Watsy. Tom, Ida, thoughts?
It's a funny race. It's a race, Maddie, that often goes to horses at the top of the weights. You'd think, given that it's heavy ground, 4 miles round, Newcastle that it would favour lower weights. But the history of the race is not like that at all. I think in the last 10 years or so, I think only 2 horses have won under 11 stone. So I like class in this race normally. However, having said that, I was really impressed with a horse called Back to the Thatch, Henry Daly's horse at Chepstow last time. I think he will love 4 miles. He jumps really well, and he's only 6. So, you know, whether he'll be tough enough for a race like this now. But I thought he stepping up in trip, if he was to run, would be interesting. And also Sue Smith in this race, you know, in the staying chase has a great record. She's got 2 in there. Heynan, who I think will love 4 miles, crying out for 4 miles. He was 3rd to the Dutchman over 3 miles last time. I thought he was a certainty to run in the Grand National Trial on Saturday, but he didn't. If he runs, he's have a chance. And also the course specialist Smooth Stepper, who was really impressive last time. I think last 3 wins have all come at Newcastle. So those would be the two smooth Sue Smith runners. Try saying that quickly. And the one down the bottom, Back to the Thatch.
Okay, brilliant. And before we leave you, any other horses this weekend who we've seen that are entered who are on our radars? Binners, I'll go to you first on this one.
Well, we're very much looking forward to Paddy Power Cheltenham Trials at Nace on Sunday, Maddie. We've got the Paddy Power Newlands Chase there, and my thanks to racing journalist Tony Keenan, who suggested a couple that might run in that race. Dr. Phoenix, who won the Danmore Memorial, and 2 miles is very much his trip. And also last year's winner, Alicia de Lande, trained by Waterford wizard Henry de Bromhead, who won the same race last year by 10 lengths.
Okay, fab. Tom?
There's, funny enough, Maddie, there's Kempton meeting. I've been there a few times, and there's been a couple of horses that have made their debuts that have gone on to win in Cheltenham. You know, Soldatino was one, and one of Paul Nichols's was another, Zarkanda.
Yeah.
And I'm quite interested in a couple of newcomers running in the Dovecote. Humphrey Bogart for Nicky Henderson. I'd love to be interested to see how he runs. I think he was 4th in the Derby, wasn't he? Or 5th in the Derby once or something. He ran in the Derby. He was 5th in the Derby. He might make his debut for Nicky Henderson. And also, perhaps more interesting, is Alan King's Scarlet Dragon, who's down to run in the same race. He was a really good handicapper. He ended up being rated 108 for Eve Johnson Horton. You know, he's really good. If he takes to hurdles, it'll be interesting to see how, if they go and win there and win well. I think people will be talking them about possible supreme horses. So those 2 that are making their debuts would be the ones I would be going to the races to see.
Very, very interesting. I like that a lot. Watsy?
I think Alan King's planning to run Radici in his knee this weekend at Kempton.
I think that might be the plan, yeah.
Yeah, so it could be interesting. Although that would be 3 runs at Kempton for him now. It'd be nice to see him somewhere else. You know, just to see how he gets on another track. And I think Paul Nicholls is going to run Surname in the Pendle, so I think he might take a bit of beating in that. Probably be a small field again. It's been reopened, I think, but it's the plan for him to go.
Okay, plenty of names to stick in your notebooks there. I think that'll about do us for today. Make sure to remember, if you like these shows, make sure you rate, review and subscribe to them on iTunes, and we'll see you again soon.
Success ain't earned, it's bought. That's why at Paddy Power, we paid the big bucks for the best tech nerds in the world to develop our new fastest ever app. Download the new app from the App Store or Play Store now. 18+, begambleaware.org.